I was going to say, hopefully our producer is making a note to edit that out of the show, but who knows? Maybe it'll make it.
My point would be, go ahead.
Well, here we are.
Once again.
Finally. Man, hopefully the last week has been amazing for everybody.
I speak for everybody when I say, yeah, it has.
Well, I do tell people when we talk about like what your role on the show is, I'll often tell people that you're effectively the surrogate audience.
Oh.
Because as we have remarked on the show before, I do a little bit of prep, but my prep to you is giving you the minimum amount where you feel like you can contribute.
Correct.
But also maintain the level of surprise or the questions that an audience that isn't interacting with us in real time might ask those questions.
I suddenly feel an enormous amount of pressure.
I thought you were going to say used.
No. As a person who literally sells his time and brain space, I pretty much always feel used, which means I never feel used. So that's fine. That's all fine.
Right. You are that frog in the boiling water.
Yeah.
Yeah. You put it in the room temperature water and then you slowly heat up and then they won't jump out of the water.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, the frog dies.
Well, hopefully that fate isn't in your future, but we might as well find out.
It's a metaphor.
It is.
Lunatics.
Okay. Yeah. And I think this is probably a good time to introduce the show.
Sure.
You are listening, and you being the audience member,
and me,
and now as the surrogate audience, Mike. You're listening to the Hot Lou Show, and I am your host, Lou Abramowski, or maybe not even somewhat secretly known as Hot Lou.
And I am the avatar for tens of thousands of lunatics, Mike Franklin.
Yeah, the 7 billion hot mics daily.
Whew. Just observe that we are in the luxurious Hot Lou studios, hotlou.com studios here, and I used the phrase "hot mic" unironically when we were going back and forth, and you had gone to do your pre-show ritual of emptying your bladder, and I said, "Gosh, I hope Lou's not mic'd up in there."
Well, I said we were going to start the show, but I have to tell this anecdote because maybe you're familiar.
That is the show. That is the show.
It is the show.
Yeah,
right. Just anecdote after
intro, anecdote, show over,
followed by 7 more anecdotes. So, as you might recall, in high school, I took French class.
Oui.
And the French class, bonjour, was taken over what probably is totally ordinary today. But in the 90s, this was like super
was unbelievable
advanced,
IT.
Yeah, technology. It was interactive television where the teacher was actually in, I think, Willow River, and we were in Cloquet. So she was teaching it, and there were like 20 members of the class, but we were in 4 different actual towns. And Madame Clune, that hopefully Madame Clune is still with us. She was a great teacher, but in a little bit over her head in trying to control the group kind of remotely, and would often just have these just weird blunders. And as you might imagine, she had to wear a mic.
Right.
In order for her teaching to reach us, several towns over. And at one point, she excused herself to
go
to the bathroom.
And this was all?
And it was all broadcast over interactive television across 4 different towns. Yeah.
Boy, there is no better way to sync yourself with a group of unruly high schoolers, let alone a group of unruly high schoolers scattered around Carleton County.
Not to mention an unruly group of high schoolers that included our mutual friend, Kevin Thompson.
Yeah. Oh, heavens.
So you might imagine how that went. So shout out to Kevin if you're one of the lunatics listening to this episode.
It reminds me, Lou, that there was this instance where 2 cats, they were having a swimming race across the English Channel, and one cat was English and one cat was French, as makes sense.
Yeah.
The English cat is called 1, 2, 3, and the French cat is called 1, 2, 3.
Let's see where this is
Which cat wins?
Go ahead and lay it on us.
It's the English cat. And why is that? Because 1, 2, 3, cat sank.
Fantastic. Hopefully that, was understood by some, upwards of 3 to 4% of our listeners. If not,
Go to the internet.
go to Dad Jokes Daily, which you can, one of our best sponsors, really. At the time of recording here, we were only moments away from reaching 10,000 followers.
Oh, man, you could be, you, lunatic, who has not yet gone to the page, you could be our 10,000th follower. 10,000.
And it's available at facebook.com/dadjokeeveryday. And this is a good time to roll the commercial.
Hey, Lou.
Mike?
I'm doing these dad jokes.
Almost every day for over a year.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it has been every day. And it got me to thinking, Lou.
What did it get you thinking, Mike?
What if I started a Facebook page where I did a dad joke every day and it wouldn't be limited to just my Facebook friends?
But wouldn't that be a ton of work to try to have to publish that every single day, Mike?
Not if you did it all at once, Lou, and created the content using Evergreen.
That's brilliant.
You know what? That's exactly what I did. And you, the listener, can enjoy dad jokes every day by going to facebook.com and searching Dad Joke Daily, or by going to @dadjokeseveryday. Dad joke every day. One joke. One joke.
And we'll have a link at hotloo.com/dadjokedaily.
What if I want more than one dad joke every day?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, I think one dad joke a day should probably be everybody's upper limit.
So go to @dadjokeeveryday, and you too can enjoy the hilarity that animates my life and kept me out of the really good schools. Every time I hear the commercial, Lou, I am reminded that I'm just in awe of the power of social media. I did not know, for example, that on a planet of 7 billion people, there were 10,000 dads. Did not know.
Yeah, today the Hot Lou Show has learned that there are upwards of 10,000 dad.
Yeah. Oh, I'm approaching 10,000, but soon to be upwards of 10,000.
Yeah, I mean, we might be a little bit presumptuous in assuming we will reach 10,000, given that we're 20 away at the moment.
Whew.
And of course, by we, I mean our sponsor.
Not yes in French.
Right. So should we introduce the show again? Now that we just told 3 anecdotes.
So today we're going to talk about marketing strategies for your...
No, you know what? Let's just fly through this, because I have been harboring this hate alongside my touchscreen hate, which... By the way, and I promise I won't get into another anecdote here. I did end up purchasing the brand new Bose headphones.
So you have to navigate a touchscreen on your damned earphones?
I did, and I'm so desperately wanting to tell a couple anecdotes about it, but let's save it for another show.
That could be a whole other show.
It probably will be. But the hate that I'm harboring alongside my touchscreen hate is the hate for password requirements.
Yes. Preach.
So, I was already hating these password requirements, and I wish I could find the date on this actual comic that inspired me to really understand what the requirements were really kind of doing and what they weren't doing. And some of us in the audience, I'm sure, are familiar. Many lunatics are familiar with XKCD, the comic. Are you familiar, Mike?
You just said 4 letters.
Yep, that's it. XKCD. And in fact, the actual author, his name is Randall Munroe.
Okay.
And we could do a whole episode. Actually, we could probably do 10 hours on him because he's fascinating. He's a physicist and a background like working for NASA. And well, the reason that the comic is called XKCD.
Was it because it was about Jared Allen?
I don't get that reference.
When he came to Minnesota, he was an ex-KCD.
Wow.
See, it's not all cat jokes here.
No, that was amazingly clever and very quick. Yeah, so this is Jared Allen's comic. Most people didn't realize that before he was with the Kansas City Chiefs, he was a NASA physicist.
I mean, he's now a would-be Olympian curler.
Oh.
Are you aware of this?
I wasn't aware of it, but it makes sense.
He's put together a team of former NFL players who are trying to make the Olympics on the U.S. Olympic curling team.
Yeah, and here we were trying to avoid the anecdotes, and I am desperately wanting to tell my curling experience.
As the avatar for the audience, I tune in for the content, here for this content. Let's channel our password hate. Maybe we can save your curling experience.
Okay, XKCD, very quickly. The reason it's the comic is called XKCD is, as Randall Munroe is wont to do, he has a reason behind everything. And XKCD is the shortest, easy to remember domain that he could get. And easy is debatable, but he knew that the 4 letters XKCD didn't appear in that order anywhere on the internet when he created this.
Oh my gosh.
So he had scoured the internet looking for that, found out that it wasn't there, and he knew it would be easy for people to find. Well, he had a comic, and as people on Reddit are aware of, there's an XKCD comic about pretty much everything that's relevant. But this one on the password strength, I will share it in the show notes, and I'm not going to be able to describe it in detail because there's just too many details in the comic. But the caption that goes along with it, and I'll explain the justification here. The caption reads, "Through 20 years of effort, we've successfully trained everyone to use passwords that are hard for humans to remember, but easy for computers to guess."
I'm looking at it. I just pulled it up.
And it's fascinating because he breaks down in the comic what is very interesting about what all of these password requirements have trained us to use. And most notably, it's been just basically number replacements in basic words.
Right.
Or special characters for that matter. But at the end of the day, if it's only like 10 characters long and you're just using like a number at the end and typical number replacement or caps, non-caps, that actually doesn't make the password stronger as you think it does. But ironically, and I use that term, I think, in the exact sense, what is interesting is you can actually create a far more powerful password by just using dictionary words that are stacked up and divided by a special character. So
like dog, trombone, plate with exclamation points
in between them. Yeah, that is a far stronger password than just replacing the word like trouble followed by a 3 and replacing the O with a 0.
No kidding.
Yep. And not only that, it's like it's magnitudes of order stronger password, and yet it's so much easier for a human to remember it. And with that, it can become something that you, as somebody that has probably countless passwords, can actually find a way to easily remember your password so you don't have to forget about it, or so that you can remember it without a password manager, which we'll get to in a second. But really just taking 3 to 4 words that are, of probably 5 characters or more and divide it up with a special character, then you're going to get a much stronger password and you'll be able to remember it. And, presumably you can do this with words that are meaningful to you, or you can have some other sort of mnemonic to remember. And then what I do in this scenario is I'll often take, when I try this, and then it'll the website or application will attempt to tell me that I'm not meeting the security requirements because I don't have a capital letter or a number. I can easily just capitalize the first letter.
Sure.
And then if I want, I can append a number that's familiar to me at the end with that special character in between it. So if we were sitting in this room, right, where you might have like capital H hot dash Mike dash THREE for 3, and then dash 1978 because we were both born in 1978, and that becomes a far more powerful password than
a random series of letters and numbers that like my password generator kicks out for me.
Exactly. And that password will be easy to remember. It'll be actually more secure than the other potential passwords that you might get. That's just this long string of characters that you have to stop, open up your password manager, copy and paste it, or however your password manager works. They work great on a desktop, but as I'm sure you've experienced, they do not work well on mobile just yet. Some of them do and are getting there, but it depends on the mobile app developer to integrate into these password managers. So I'm going to share this in the show notes. Obviously,
This is extremely practical.
it's something that could help everybody listening to this several times a day for the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Until somebody invents something that destroys the password.
I literally made a note to remember to change all my passwords to kids, ? Mortgage, ? Car, ? Bankrupt, ! I will never forget that. I go 22 and a half hours out of my day thinking about those words in that order.
With the question mark, I'm sure.
And the exclamation point.
Yeah.
You can all hack into my bank account now and verify what I'm telling you.
I was going to say, hopefully our producer is making a note to edit that out of the show, but who knows? Maybe it'll make it.
My point would be, go ahead.
Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah. Log right in.
Yeah.
That's
if
fine.
there's anything you can do to help Mike with his finances, or
go to Dad Jokes
planning.
Daily. If you are one of the 10,000 dads out there, go to that website. Click on it.
So, with that, I also want to add that, there are amazing password managers out there. And I really encourage people to use them, not only for the sake of being able to access everything that you've got, but, in terms of ensuring that you're taking care of, whatever it is, your bank account, your email address. I know that in my scenario, I would hate to lose access to my primary email account.
Oh, yeah.
Although I've recently considered nuking it because I've had it since April 1st, 2004, and looking for an alternative. But, using a password manager, my two favorite, I recommend Dashlane for, I think, somebody who's kind of casually looking for a password manager. I think Dashlane is a perfectly usable and effective password manager. I think the two other password managers, if you're looking for like a heightened level of security, LastPass.
That's what I use.
And 1Password, I think generally are considered to be a little bit on the higher standard. And I use 1Password.
So, can I just volunteer that a couple years ago I had some manner of freak out over my sameness of all my passwords was just the same thing everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I purchased LastPass, and I bought it's an annual subscription. I think it's $59.95 or something like that. It's not that bad, and if you run a business, it's a write-off. So, and I went through and I spent like a day and a half generating passwords for all of these different websites.
Right.
This had to have been about 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and these passwords, which now I know, thanks to the Hot Loose show, that computers can easily hack. Q79 exclamation point 4 capital Z lowercase y. I mean that
I'm
kind of
amazed
thing.
that you remember that.
Okay, yeah. Over the intervening 3 years, I have gone back systematically. Every time one of these damn banks or email accounts makes me change my password, I just go back to my primary password that I use for everything.
Right.
So I've spent the money and I have this thing, but now it's a different iteration of which letter I've capitalized or whether I use an exclamation point or a dash, but it's basically the same formula. Mm-hmm. And that's actually just made it harder because I can't remember, did I capitalize every letter or just one of the letters?
Which permutation did you apply?
Was it one exclamation point, or did I just change it by putting another exclamation point on there, which I've done? So I've gone through my work computer makes me change my work password every 90 days. So I'm kind of at the wit's end. And not only that, they put in the 2-factor security.
Yeah.
So every time I log in from a different browser, which actually comes up more often than not, I have to get a text to my phone and then put in a series of numbers that Microsoft has generated for me. And I've literally spent like 20 minutes having to like go back and forth. Okay, well, that timed out, so now you need to put your password in, and then I put in the wrong password, so I go back to LastPass and find the password, and then I have to get the text, and I put the text in, and that's the wrong text because it was the first text and not the second text, and I'm ready to throw the damn computer out the window. All I want to do is write a Word document.
As you were going through this, I was imagining you totally calmly handling
this is a serious. I mean, like as I follow society's descent into madness, I mean, the whole thing was condensed in my brain in about a 15-minute interlude where I wanted to fire every tech person I've ever worked with and say, I don't care. Break into my damned email. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Go back to whatever Prodigy.
Yeah. Well,
GVRH29B.
You mentioned that, and I want to say two things. One, it's funny that you mentioned this, like different iterations of the same password, because somebody we've already mentioned on the show, Kevin Thompson, very famously used to use a word that I'm not going to mention for the show here, as all of his passwords like that. So maybe he'll be able to chime in the show notes or something like that, or on the Facebook page about it. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is kind of what you suggested here, and it's a philosophy that I've had for a long time that maybe we'll do a full show on. But what I kind of assume anything and everything that I do that's connected to the internet may and very will likely become public at some point.
It's a pretty good default setting for your brain.
So rather than trying to apply security to ensure that whatever I'm doing on the internet never surfaces, I decided about 8 or 9 years ago that I would only do things on the internet that if they became public, it wouldn't ruin my reputation or embarrass me too badly. And if you go to actually my personal profile on Facebook, I'd say probably 99% of all of the posts that I've published in the last 10 years, I deliberately set to public. Yeah. And I think that's a better philosophy than trying to layer on this additional level of security.
You know, in light of cancel culture, which we've talked about in a previous episode, you're like literally the only person qualified to run for public office.
I disagree with that.
Well, I mean, if the first criteria is an almost Puritan level of you must never have ever made a mistake or said something even marginally controversial ever in your history, then we're all screwed, and you're our new
absolutely
you're in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and here you are.
And here I am, only having been nearly expelled from my university 3 times.
Well, so it was real public, though. You were real public about that.
Right. So yeah, if my record only goes back 10 years, I'm probably squeaky clean.
There you go.
But with that, I really hope some people take this advice to heart about your password management and security. Obviously we could talk about this for a very long time, and hopefully Kevin Thompson makes some commentary in the show notes that will probably be very entertaining, as he is capable of doing, and maybe even add some security stuff, because that's what he does now professionally, which is kind of entertaining in itself, I think.
I think so too.
But with that, thanks everybody for listening. This has been The Hot Lou Show, and I'm your host, Louis Abramowski.
I am amateur French speaker Mike Franklin.
We'll talk to you next Lou's Day.